up the microphones here. Hello, and welcome to the On My Sleeve channel, where we do weekly book reviews, summary recaps, live book discussions like today. Today we have an additional person with us. This is Chaz from Books and Stuff with Chaz, another BookTube Brandon Sanderson enthusiast. Um, would you like to let people know a bit about your channel, Chaz?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. This is really awesome. I've been doing YouTube for almost a year now, and my channel is primarily devoted to, uh, well, books in general, but primarily fantasy. I'd say 90% of what I read and review is fantasy related, but I read some mystery and science fiction in there as well, and some nonfiction too. I occasionally review some nonfiction books. And then I do a small amount of book boat tags. Yeah, that's what they're called, right? Yeah, book tags. So I do a few of those, and I do some movie reviews, nerdy movie reviews, and things. So a little bit of everything, but mostly fantasy books. And as you said, I'm a huge Sanderson fan, so um, yeah, you can always find me reading probably at least one Sanderson book.
Right on. Well, thank you for joining us today. Um,
Yeah,
I
we're happy to have you. You didn't plug that you're also a published author and artist, right?
I am. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a published author and artist. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't plug that.
A lot of us in the book space, that's a big goal for us to get our works out there.
I think oh what I'm gonna butcher the quote, but thought Brandon said Mistborn and Arcanium or whatever. No, not Arcanium. Elantris were his first like big published books, but they were like his 14th or 15th book that he had written. So,
Right.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So happy to have you. Um, we started off the last Mistborn stream since we brought up the Cosmere, kind of talking to everybody about their experience with the Cosmere. We talked a little bit about it before the stream, but what all have you read in the Cosmere so far, Chaz?
Yeah, so quite a bit. I read Elantris and Warbreaker. In fact, Mistborn, The Final Empire was my first introduction to Brandon Sanderson. And then
Oh,
I
okay.
read some Warbreaker after that. And then of course I've kept up to date with the Stormlight Archive, so I'm a huge fan of those books. It's a great series, and
Oh, incredible.
yeah. And I read Arcanum Unbounded, all except the Mistborn stuff. So trying to
Okay.
avoid spoilers there until I'm finished with Era One at least.
Yeah. Um, Remind me, Pete, I think have you read all those? Have you read Elantris yet?
I have not read Elantris or Warbreaker yet. I'm current with
Okay.
Stormlight, excited for 4 coming out in November.
Yes.
Read through the first arc of Mistborn and the second generation or verbiage they use for Alloy of Law
Era.
era.
Yeah. Um, which do you like more, Pete? Era 1 or Era 2?
You know, he apparently doesn't watch enough James Bond because they never get the girl. Um, I
Hey, no
I
spoilers. No spoilers. I just asked which you liked more.
I don't know. The first one, I'd like it. I'd probably say Era 1 more just because there's a lot more developmental stuff and there's
Okay.
a bigger twist and it I'd have to say 1. Second one's good as well, but yeah, not quite the same.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I kind of not quite sure what I'm going to think of Mistborn Era 2. I'm not a huge fan of Flintlock fantasy either, and from what I understand, it's a lot more Flintlock than his other the Era 1, of course. So yeah,
Okay.
we'll see. I'm gonna give it a good shot though. I love Brandon Sanderson, so I'll read anything.
Yeah, yeah. I have trouble deciding, but what I like a lot about Era 2 without getting into spoilers is a lot of the theory crafting that you want to do from 1, where it's just like, oh, we now understand all these magic systems by the time we get through book 3, which I don't know if we did our spoiler warning.
Oh,
We are going to do our best to get up to the end of book 2 as far as fair game for spoilers. Um, Try really hard not to delve into book 3, though it can be a challenge at time when you talk about the magic and the lore a little bit because you learn more every book. But yeah, spoiler warnings. Now's your chance to abort if you don't want them. That being said, Era 2 is just great for all the potential theory crafting with these incredible magic systems because we learned throughout the first trilogy that we have like the 3 different magic systems, right? You have the allomancy, the ferrochemistry, blah, and
Yeah, yeah.
and then third one, drawing a blank,
oh,
hermology,
Hemalurgy. Yep.
yeah.
metallurgy, yeah, yeah, which I don't think we learn too much more in book 2. Um, Going to rely a bit on Chaz here to help us make sure we stick through the second book because you've just started the third one recently, right?
I've just started the third one, yeah, and yeah, they tend to they give a little bit more detail in book 2 about the hemorrhage than they did in the first book. I mean, you hardly get anything in book 1, but Seiza does start to talk a lot more about his particular alimentic gift or alimentic type gift in book 2 than he does in book 1. Yeah.
Real quick, Fun Guy Leet found Brandon Sanderson after finishing The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. That's where I hear a lot of people picked him up
Yeah.
because The Wheel of Time had such a big following. I
Yes.
didn't finish it, and I think a lot of it was the time I was reading it. I had read a lot of other, I guess, quicker action packed books, and I wasn't really in for the long haul. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's another good way people found of him. And then yeah, Era 2 is more mystery style as well. I guess I don't know if I said it in the intro, but just to make sure it's there, this is going to be the Well of Ascension, Mistborn Book 2 by Brandon Sanderson. That's what we're here for. Should know by the title, but I don't think I actually listed it out.
Yeah, it's been a long weekend, but we're here geeking out, looking forward to it. Um, Quick comment on the Wheel of Time. It's an amazing series, but looking back, you really have to look at it for what it is in the era it came out. But yeah, I feel that Brandon Sanderson's big break was when he got selected to finish out the Wheel of Time series and then get introduced to all those other fantasy fans that were following it for the 30 something years, maybe, that it was coming out. It's a huge series. Um,
Right.
and yeah, at first I didn't like Brandon Sanderson, and I think it was the transition between authors, but the way he built on the magic system in the Wheel of Time hooked me, and then I picked up Mistborn. I want to say it was like 2013, and have been a Brandon Sanderson fanboy ever since. Um, but yeah, with that in mind, what would you guys think of Mistborn to the Well of Ascension overall? Pete, you want to go first?
So I guess I maybe it's because I thought it was better and it's been a while since I've gone back through it, but for me, sadly, like 70% of it, I was just kind of like Charlie Brown in it, where I was like, wah, 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 I don't care about Ellen. You know, the very beginning, we've got these three armies, and I just want something to happen. And then it was very anticlimactic, but then there's like 30% where he was developing his magic system, and we got to see the Inquisitor stronghold, and we got to, you know, deal with Marsh, and you know there's 30% of it that was developing the magic and developing everything else, and I was like, oh yes, you know, more of this.
Yeah, it's definitely um world building and character building book for us, right?
Yeah.
Um, what was your overall take on it, Chaz? I know you got a spoiler or you got a review of it out already, but for those who haven't watched your review, what's your thoughts of the Well of Ascension?
I thought it was an amazing book. I liked it much better than book one. Book one
Okay.
was a really kind, to be honest with you, kind of a slog for me in places up until right at the very end. And then certain parts in the middle were pretty gripping for me too. But
Okay.
overall, there was so much world building in the first book and getting to know the magic system, which is typical Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes the first book at least a little bit slower. So I thought this was much more evenly paced, and I loved getting to know more of the side characters aside from Vin and Ellen, getting to know more of their backstories and more learning more about the lore. And yeah, I thought it was a much better book than book one.
That's uh that's interesting. I typically hear the opposite when I talk with some other people. And you know, I it really comes down, I think, to preference because they're very different books in a lot of way, right? Like the first one is, hey, let's pull off this incredible heist, right? And it's supposed to be a thieving job slash let's overthrow a god. And now the second one is, okay, now that we have this empire, how do we keep it?
Right.
So um, very very different vibe, but yeah, Brandon Sanderson does an amazing job with the world building, and we definitely get a lot more of that um, in this book. So uh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
um
thought pretty interesting in this book watching the fallout from the first book and how everything has changed. And I found myself at least wondering at points in the book, okay, should they have overthrown the Lord Ruler after all?
yeah, yeah. It's one of the things I really enjoy about this series is like you get a lot of those philosophical questions, right? You can't help but get some of that with like Sazed, who does you know, always talking about religion, and Ham asking his philosophical questions, and then Ellen. And yeah, like what they did, was it right? Did they make the right call? Um, you know, some people are absolutes where like evil is evil, but are there necessary evils? And in book two, we really get to kind of analyze that with the crew as they look at like, wow, well, the Lord Ruler didn't have people freezing to death in the wintertime or starving. And here, the crew had the best intentions, but how many people died because of it,
Right.
Well,
right?
that's
And
where
then,
one ended well, because like the final thing the Lord Ruler says is, you know, you may not see it, but I was your god. I without me, you know, these other things are gonna happen, or however he ends it. And then this is another thing Brandon does, in my opinion, better than anyone else who tries to do these the little snippets at the beginning of the chapter, and how, you know, they contradict each other, and then it finally comes together when Tindwell and Caesar are doing their review, checking everything out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was
Yeah.
so close.
Yeah. Fungi said that Ham is one of his favorites, so I figured that'd be a good opportunity to ask you guys, like, who is your favorite from the crew, and who do you feel was like the most valuable player from the crew? We kind of have a trend going where we like to talk about that.
Yeah.
And
That's a tough one.
yeah.
Try to
I'll
not
say we'll
pick main character, right?
you can if you want. Let's go with favorites, and then we'll go around and come back to the MVP, who really helped carry the crew per se. And I threw it out there, so I'll go first. Am I allowed to pick Sazed as my favorite? I really enjoyed his journey this book.
I think he won for our last one as well.
Did he win for our favorite or MVP? He's just such a crucial character, and it's kind of a surprise because the way he gets introduced in the first book, at least my first time reading through, like, I kind of dismissed him, right? He's just this servant who's kind of going to be looking out for Vin, and then we learn about like the ferochemistry and what it means to be a keeper and just kind of like all that's involved there.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely put him as my favorite. Did you decide, Pete, or should we let Chaz go first?
Yeah, I'll take a pass.
All right, Chaz, who was your favorite of the crew for book 2?
I was actually gonna say Caesar, but Ham is a close second for me. Yeah, but I really like Caesar. Yeah, I like his exploration and open-mindedness, specifically the exploration of all the cultures, because I think of anyone, he's bound to know all the ins and outs and the pros and cons of each of the different cultures, because he has to. It's part of his job as a keeper. So I really liked that. I thought it was really great. Yeah, he is full of so much wisdom. You're right, Fungi. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to get into spoilers, but it'll be interesting to see his progression in book 3.
Oh wait,
all right,
now
Pete.
I can say it. Brandon didn't see enough James Bond movies because I was totally like, oh yeah, Caesar, gonna get that girl, and then she dies. So it happens. Sad. If I couldn't pick,
Oh, the feels.
I couldn't pick
Yeah.
Caesar, and if I wanted to just be off the wall, does Zane count? Because like,
Yeah.
he
He's not
had
part of the crew.
he had a weird
but
art that kind of, I don't know, more questions than answers. So essentially, he doesn't wear the mist cloak because he has a spike driven through him. And so if he wears the mist cloak, it will, you'll see it through the chest. And then, like, right as he dies, you hear God speaking in his head where he's like, oh, you were never crazy. And for me, like, it's half of what made the Inquisitors, but how did it happen? And it just like adds, it's the only conclusive fact of there's possibly two entities, because the whole like Caesar's research and everything about only things set in metal can actually be or are precise, and that's his whole problem he runs into with rubbing. Whatever has changed it. And so we've kind of got like the mist wraith or the mist spirit, and then we've got God, who can influence people who have metal embedded in them. But then I'm also like really confused if that's how simple it is, because when Caesar goes up against Marsh and he gets his rings, shoved into him because he thinks it's coins, and then he gets God in his head again, and it's like, well, the Inquisitors have the spikes, which I would think would relate to the god, but then now that Caesar has the metal in him, it's saying the opposite. So why would you fight yourself? And I don't know. It's Zane
More
does well
foreshadowing for the later
because
book.
kind of there's another scene where he sets everything up right before he dies, where he's pretty much like, I had to, you know, do this and set you up, and he's the puppet master behind the scenes that actually ends up helping us out in, the conclusion for the army and everything.
Right.
I don't think he gets enough credit because you're right. Like as you're going through all this, and as I was listening to it again, um, he's one of the few people that can really manipulate Straff, and like him helping delay everything just bought the main crew that much more time.
Well, and not
Um,
just ulting and one-shotting Vin, or not
it,
using oh, the thing we're searching for, the metal that you can see the future. Can't think of the name.
Oh, Adium
Yeah, Adient.
is.
Yeah, because he
mhm,
could have just ended it all, but
yeah,
he
yeah,
help
but he
he
wanted
helps
to be
her out
saved,
for
right?
the first misting battle we run into, and then he sacrifices Straps, bastard kids. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Right.
he's
his
behind the
brothers,
scenes.
his half brothers,
Yeah.
right? So was that your MVP or your favorite?
He did a lot. He's the only reason, so I think that's MVP. I mean,
Okay,
favorites. It's got to be Caesar. Like he just
yeah,
does so much, and even though he's just a keeper and he's a scholar, his like even the battle, like his gate's the only gate that didn't get overtaken because he ends up storing up, the weight and just all this other stuff, and
hmm
yeah, he definitely. I guess yeah, he's a favorite just because he goes through and he finally connects the how he's another anchor for the mist being the deepness and everything else, and yeah,
hmm
I wish he
hmm
got the girl, but other than that, he's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, um, Chaz, who do you feel was MVP for this book? Um,
Oh, I don't know. All things considered, I still really think that I still really think that Vin still takes MVP for me.
yeah.
Just because everything she did, even right up until the very end, I think a most valuable player knows they can when they have every right to have something. Like she could have taken the power, right,
hmm
and just kept it for herself,
hmm
but but she didn't. She gave it up because saving Ellen was more important to her and things like that. And so
It's a big sacrifice,
that's
like
a big
watching the love
stack.
of your life like bleed out and know that they're going to die, but
Yeah,
um, just like her progression and development in this book, like coming from that street urchin at the beginning of book one who was only thinking about herself to watching the love of her life die in front of her and be like, what does he want? What would he want from us?
right.
Um, and then to make the mistake of releasing the power. Um, for me, MVP, um, I would probably pick Tyndall just because of how much she helped push Ellen's character development and
She
growth.
did. Yeah,
Um, and I really enjoyed that dynamic there, and just to see how she can kind of unnerve everyone, including Sazed, who just seems so well collected and calm and level headed. But there were several moments where other members of the crew, like honorary MVPs, like Breeze and Clubs really did a lot for us in this book. If you look
They
at
did.
Breeze getting the third army there, as well as like spreading the rumors, and then just I really enjoyed seeing the additional character development for Clubs, even though we lost him at the end in the big battle. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
We lost Clubs and
Dachshund.
then Dachshund.
Mhm.
Yeah. I wish we
And
saw
or
more of him.
I was gonna say he didn't show up much in this one, but like you said in the first one, there's kind of that bromance or whatever, the brotherly love with Kelsier, and then in this one, his only big thing was he had a conversation with Vin and how you know we put a nobleman on the throne, and every time he talks to Ellen, he
Hmm.
just sees Kelsier shaking his head behind him, and the fact that if he has to admit not all noblemen are evil, that what he did to them and how many of them that he killed is wrong, and it's a
Hmm.
developmental thing there, but I was really his only critical part
Yeah.
he had for me in the book.
Quick shout out. Hey, Bearded Bookworm. Thanks for joining
Hey,
us.
this Bearded
Another,
Bookworm itself.
another great channel for you guys to go check out. Not right now, but later on. Bearded Bookworm also does a lot of great Brandon Sanderson content and joined us for the last Mistborn discussion. But yeah, how did Ham get done dirty? Um, Curious about that. We didn't see a whole lot of Ham, though he is one of my favorites too.
I
Right.
thought we saw quite a bit of Ham. Ham was organizing, uh, groups of people. Ham was sparring with Vin, and
That's true.
kind of gave
Yeah.
us the insight of she's able to squeeze more out of her metal, even though the power comes from the metal, but because she doesn't have the
Hmm.
weight of muscles holding her down, and this, that, and the
Hmm.
other, and then she kind of balances out a bit for when Vin freaking has a super effective headbutt and blows up the other guy's head. He's able to kind of tell Vin that it's something he's not used to seeing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That their whole relationship was really interesting and kind of fun to read, between Ellen and Vin, and the misunderstandings there. Um,
Oh yeah, just less
yeah,
and less screen time. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
uh, he deserved more screen time. There were a couple members of the crew that I felt deserved more screen time. Um, but yeah, so we asked it last time. We're allowed to change our minds. If you were going to be a misting, which power would you like to have? And I'll try to pull it up. I'm trying to remember. We don't know all of the metals just yet, but steel is the coin shot, iron's the lurcher, zinc the rider, brass the soother, pewter is the thug, tin eye, copper is the smoker, and bronze is the seeker. And those are the quote original 8. And
Right.
then trying to make sure I don't do any spoilers, we also know about gold, which is an augur, reveals your past self. Um, Aluminum, which wipes out your allomantic reserves. Man, can you imagine being a misting with aluminum as a power? Talk about
Right.
getting a short stick, like
Or I don't think you would
wipe out
even
all that
know.
reserves.
Yeah.
And then duralumin enhances current metal building. Another thing as a misting, man, that would really stink to get that, because enhance what?
Right.
Well,
Um,
they would have to go all Captain Planet on it with our powers combined. You know, freaking smash those two together, get one that strips all the metals and one that amplifies the power. So maybe you combine them, they go all fusion ha, and then they create a kind of like
uh,
copper cloud effect of everybody losing all their metals. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
random speculation.
So
Right?
go ahead, Chaz. You know which mystic power
Oh,
you'd pick?
oh yeah, right away. I would totally pick brass. I would want to be the soother,
Yeah.
because I mean, so many people get all hot and bothered and all the drama going on in the world and stuff. I'd be like, okay, here, let me just help you calm down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think out of all of them, Soother and Ryder are definitely like the most practical, right?
Yeah,
Because like
yeah.
everything is social interaction. Um, Pete, I think you said bronze is what
Or
you'd pick
yeah,
last
last
time.
time I went Seeker, but I I don't know. I still think that could be valid. Um, but I really anything, could be fun.
Yeah.
I,
I picked oh I picked a coin shot last time because I wanted to fly, and then I think Bearded Bookworm kindly pointed out that I'd need both powers. So, being as blind as I am, I think I'd enjoy being a tin eye, having the ability to see things, and sense things and hear things. I think that would be another good practical one to have. Um, those watching would love to hear what misting power you would like to have. Those catching this afterwards, feel free to throw it in the chat below. With that being said, if you got to choose between ferrochemistry and allomancer, um, not full
or
Mistborn.
well, but I think that's
Um,
how it would have to be because we don't hear of any ferrochemy or however you say it that only have one in this.
right.
So
So you
I
think it
think
would
it
be a
would
fair
have to be.
comparison, Mistborn versus
Yeah,
ferrochemist?
yeah, and sadly, it
Okay.
wasn't like
Okay.
a one for one toe to toe punch up. But I think of Marsh versus Caesar at the end. Marsh is all like, "I'm going to, pull this metal from you and throw you over here," and he's like, "Nope, I'm super heavy, and I'm gonna pull you." And they seem to, yeah. And then the other one with Caesar, where he's a kite more or less just reduces his weight and sprints across the whole dominance and heals, and I don't know. I think it would have to be Mistborn versus Ferrochemist.
I think I'd
Okay.
prefer Mistborn too. Yeah, or at least a misting. I would want to be an Allomancer.
You'd want to be an Allomancer.
Yeah.
It it'd be a really tough call for me. I mean, Mistborns have the advantage because they draw their energy from the metals, but at the same time, like they're restricted where they need the metals to burn. But
Mhm.
ferrochemists, just because like they can, use so much
Multiplier.
more of their, yeah, the multiplier effect is just really, really appealing. And then to have that memory bit where, man, imagine doing your studies and being able to store information and all the different skills
Right.
um, in your copper mines and be able to draw it. Plus, heck, to store up wakefulness, you just need to pretty much go into a coma for a bit. Like you get some of the best sleep of your life, have a long day. Oh, time to store up some wakefulness. I'm just going to go into a coma there for a night. Um, Bearded
Yeah, that's
bookworm. Oh, go ahead, Chaz.
no, that's okay. I was just agreeing.
Yeah.
That's where like
Nick Frost.
I think I would like the Ferrochemist more just because it's kind of I guess in our current setting they don't know a whole lot about it, so surprise factor. But man, I am horrible with planning ahead. So I'd be like, "Oh yeah, here's some weight." Just kidding. I'm not wearing that one. And that's that's a
Right.
big downside I see to it, because there are times where Sazerd's like, oh well, I don't want to lose these, so I'm going to leave it behind, and then I'm going to come back and get it. Or when he goes into the Kolos camp and they take his bag of all his stuff, it's just straight up lost. And I don't know, it'd probably be
Hmm.
better as a
Imagine
mystery.
being a Feruchemist taking a test.
So,
You go into your class to take your test. You got
yeah.
your drums filled with all your knowledge. Oh, I'll just
Yeah.
Yep.
retrieve
Yep.
that.
Yep. Oh, yes, please. Bring my copper mind in. Academia would be that much easier. Um, but yeah, yeah. Um,
You were
see,
mentioning coin shot earlier. That was one of your skills that you picked. I don't
yeah,
know, man. The thing about heights, I don't know if I would want to do that.
very true. I'm not a huge fan of heights, so that would be a challenge. And if you go with the ferrochemistry, you could just make yourself lighter, right?
Yeah,
Just be a kite.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's true.
Put on one of those little squirrel suits, and you could fly around like a Mistborn. Um, but yeah, so Beard Bookworm said that Nick Frost is his fan case for Breeze, um, which I had to look it up, and I could see it, but we got Breeze. No, it's not Breeze. It's Dox and Ham that are going to be the girls, right, in the screenplay.
Uh,
Breeze is going to be
yeah.
a man still. Um,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. He was changing some stuff in his screenplay. I
mhm.
forgot about.
Yeah, we dived a little bit into that in our first Geek Out for it. Fingers crossed that Brandon Sanderson gets it, because just the fact that he's involved, I think, regardless of the direction he goes, would love to see one of his works up on the big screen.
Oh
Um,
yeah, absolutely. And Mistborn's the perfect case for it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there were a lot of big twists in this book. One of the big things that we were trying to discover was who is the Chandra, right? The replacement.
Or yeah.
And then goes through and kind of like does the process of elimination, trying to figure it out. Before the big reveal, who did you guys suspect at first? I know for me, just going through early on, I was pretty sure that like Docs would have been a good one to replace, right? Because of not having the Allomancy, being part of the crew, getting into um, all the important meetings and having access to all the documents. Um, who'd you guys suspect?
I actually thought about docs too, and there were times that I was worried, like, oh no, don't tell me it's Elland.
Oh man,
That would there were times I'm like, well, none of these other guys make sense. What if it's Elland?
yeah, yeah,
You know,
that.
and that would be a tragedy.
Oh man, that yeah. Just imagine how Vin would have reacted and everything breaking loose. I could see that though for the storyline.
Yeah.
Big twist right there. Um, how about for you, Pete? Who'd you just suspect early on? I
I
know the first time you read it was a while ago.
I was leaning more towards just like a normal staff, because there's a scene where Vin and oh names Zane infiltrate handicaps tower, and they're or no, sorry, different scene where Vin and Ellen go to meet with the guy is the leader of the army, um, and she's using her brass, or she's trying to sense other elementic powers, and it's the servers who are the thugs and whatnot. So for me, I was
Right.
thinking more like it would just be a serving staff. It would be even more low key. But
Yeah, that makes sense. I suspected Demu for a little bit my first pass, but
Yeah.
one of the things I really appreciate about Brandon Sanderson is like he's really good at the foreshadowing to where like in hindsight when you see it, it makes sense and it's still believable, but it's not so in your face. And then when we found out that it was his Chandra, it was Osir or
Yeah.
whatnot, like it just made so much sense, especially with some of the personality changes. But wow,
well,
like
personality changes, and then when she's questioning about the what he was supposed to do after taking Kelsier's body, all the information that he gave back was literally whatever she said. So there was no additional content for it. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, what were some other big plot twists that kind of caught you guys off guard? Does anything come to mind?
I was really intrigued, like right towards the beginning there, when Marsh and Sazed met, and he copied down that plate that Marsh showed him.
Mm-hmm.
He did the
Rubbing of it.
he the rubbing of it and everything, and it's really interesting getting to hear the history of the previous Hero of Ages because because it seems like um, it seems like what I'm trying to remember the Lord Ruler's name. We learn it in the
Oh,
second book. I think was it.
Rashik.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
the Pac
apparently
Man.
he basically stole the power from, or it was supposed to be someone else that took the power from the Well of Ascension, but he ended up taking it instead.
Yeah.
And so it was just really interesting learning that history and learning a little bit more about Rashek, about the Lord Ruler, and you really start to you really start to feel good towards the Lord Ruler in some ways
Yeah.
because he kind of set out with good intentions and things like that, but
That was
power corrupts and stuff. But
that was a big roller coaster for me because like all book one we're like, okay, he's evil, we need to overthrow him, and then you get to the end of one and he has that line where he's like, you don't know what I've been doing for you, and then all through two, we're trying to figure it out, and it's not until that final spot where, after everything's happened, Caesar goes back and we kind of got a hint to it, and Brandon did well. Nothing or anything not set in metal can't be trusted. And just the fact that this
right.
other power is able to alter keepers' memories and, doing it subtly. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's pretty
Yeah, it
intriguing.
makes you wonder if that power was creating a false history to be found, maybe even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's where I
Yeah.
feel like there's two powers, and it's weird because you've got when people have metal embedded in them, like Zane did, telling God, so to speak, telling him to kill all these people, but then you've got the Mist Spirit who's, kept pointing at the paper for Caesar and was like, hey, you got to come this way, and then, was hanging out with Vin, but then at the same time, the Mistwraith, attacked Ellen, but also, it could have been so that she used it instead of giving it up, and it's just, yeah,
We get some questions answered, and then we get more questions to keep us hooked going into book three, which is again another reason why I enjoy Brandon Sanderson so much because there's some authors that I really enjoy, yet they like to just give us more questions throughout the series, and then you're like, okay, well, I gotta wait for this whole series to wrap up before I understand anything. Um, But yeah, he's pretty good about that. He gives us a nugget more, and then um, teases us with oh yeah, you understand this now. But wait, there's more.
Right.
Um,
And
eh,
I was kind of perplexed, not to sidetrack, but well, maybe I won't say, but I was going to say
go for
with
it.
Elantris, it was kind of a one and done thing, and then he's added like a short story in Arcanum Unbounded for Elantris, and now it sounds like we're going to get a second Elantris book, and I'm like, well, okay,
Or wait,
he didn't really set one up,
is
It
but
is
I don't think he did anyway. Whereas Mistborn, there's cliffhangers.
right. I feel he wrapped up Elantris pretty well. Like you
I thought he
said, that
did.
it didn't need a sequel. Um,
Yeah,
but hey, it's Brandon. I mean,
yeah.
he's an instant buy. I think for a lot of us, if he puts it out, we'll buy it. I need to get around to reading or checking out his graphic novels, White Sand, and I think he has another one coming out, which is pretty cool. Um,
is Elantris the slick chick? You know, where she uses her awesome.
no,
Okay.
no,
No, that's in Stormlight. Yeah,
mhm,
and that's in Arcane Unbounded too. Yeah, Lift.
Yeah.
mhm,
Okay.
Yeah,
mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
that's in the Stormlight Archive
Spoilers.
series. Yeah, 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 yeah. Which we're going to get to eventually. We have that one on our to geek out list.
No.
So it's such a big book. I don't know how we're going to get through it all in one stream. Um, but yeah, this book was a lot of build up. I know Peter is an action junkie. We get some sprinkles of that leading
Mhm.
up to it. Um, oh, was it Set? Is that the third army? We got Straff, Set, and Elend, right? The three different
Yeah,
armies.
And
Strap
I guess there's
said, oh,
four.
actually four, because there's
Full loss.
Justin and or
Yeah,
Justice Lost. And I have to say, I may get hated on for this, but I can't stand the Koloss. I think it is the stupidest race ever put in a book. That's just my opinion. I don't really care for them. Every scene I read them in, I'm like, okay, can we move on from the dumb giants now, or
right.
the skinned creatures?
But
I don't.
You weren't
It
impressed.
yeah, I wasn't impressed.
I'm with you. And what threw me off is the fact that they were blue. And for me, if I think blue, I think Smurf. So it was like an inversion, and that didn't add up for me.
Some
Yeah,
some
yeah, that's
overgrown
true.
Smurfs.
Now you got that song stuck in my head, Pete. Thanks. La 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 la.
Uh,
Oh man. But yeah,
um,
that's true. They are giant Smurfs. That's a good point.
we
Maybe
do.
that's where he got the idea. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Authors are constantly borrowing ideas from each other.
Well, that's what I like about
Yeah.
Uh,
Brandon, because I think I watched one of his YouTube things, and he talks about how he came up with the idea of Mistborn, and says like, oh, he watched Lord of the Rings, and the fact that what would it be if Frodo got to the end and oh, I'm sorry, I forget the name. The guy was like, "Oh, hey, thanks, you found my ring," and took it, and it was like over, or he was the good guy actually, and it's just like. Oh man, so many twists.
yeah, yeah.
He takes them and then he adapts them.
And it's good. And we talk about this in other streams. And one of the many things I enjoy about fantasy and sci-fi is like it forces you to think and build empathy and kind of like challenges your perspectives. And I still remember those feelings from Mistborn where you're like, oh man, here we're going to go topple this, evil deity, etc., etc. And it's like, well, he wasn't really the villain that we thought he was, right? Like he definitely wasn't a good guy, but
Well, yeah, due
um,
to the keepers being manipulated, and they thought everything was supposed to be this way, and then someone questioning it and
Mm.
being like, "Wait a minute, if you're gonna line up exactly like they should fit the prodigal child theme, but at the same time, it's too exact." And the fact that
Yeah.
uh, the person who found him had such a phenomenal memory anyway, he was able
Mm.
to notice the discrepancies. So and due to the Lord Ruler, smothering and trying to take care of that, and it makes sense now why or makes more questions and answers of why he was trying to get rid of the Pharaoh-chemist, just
Yeah.
because, the power could manipulate them and alter their metal minds.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point. Maybe it wasn't just about the fact that he didn't want somebody that could challenge him. He knew more than us. Um, what do you guys think about Set per se? Because his character I found very interesting. He tries to come off as um, just this jerk, making it very clear that he's not a nice guy. There was that kind of plot twist where we thought that maybe he was an Allomancer for a while, right, with Vin. And it wasn't up until she nearly killed him that she realized, like, hey, you're not an Allomancer, you're not a Mistborn. Um, what's your guys' overall take on him? Is he the bad guy he paints himself out to be, or is he a good guy who's just trying to survive in this harsh world?
Yeah, I kind of took Cat as a survivor. I don't think I think he means well, but he does it the wrong way. He goes about
Okay.
it the wrong way. Yeah, that was kind of my take on him. Because when push comes to shove, he cedes his throne and says, "Okay, I'm gonna call off my attack," and kind of like, I think maybe I could say he's more talk than walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk's a big, but at the end, he's not really ready to put himself into power.
I think
Mm-hmm.
it's all a gamble because, like he says with Vin, sent all his Allomancers up against her for the first, as soon as he got there. And that's, well, freaking Miss Poof with Breeze. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but when she goes back and
Oh,
she's like, "Hey, we're gonna turn around," we either
is it
need.
Allison or yeah, I forget her name too.
Breeze's
Yeah,
girlfriend.
Breeze's
Yeah,
girlfriend,
That
and
so I could be
was a
wrong though.
twist there.
yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
and then how she's trying to get him to go back, and he's like, "Well, we're not going back." And then yeah, we are. And anyway, I think it's all a gamble because he knows the only way he's going to be able to keep his power is with you know allomantic power, because that's currently might makes right kind of mentality of the world.
yeah, to a certain degree. Um, yeah, yeah. Try and think what else. Typically, well, not typically, but depending on the book, we'll work our way through chronologically, and there's a lot of stuff that happens early on. And I don't know that we necessarily have time on the stream to go through it all, but before we get to the climax, which I really want to talk about, were there any other big moments early on in the book that kind of stuck out for you guys? Um, I'm trying to think of a couple that come to mind for
Well, for
me.
me, like Vin finding that new metal duralumin, it
Hmm.
was a linchpin for a lot of what she does. It was how she figures out how to control the Khandra. It was how she takes care of the giant Smurfs. It, was what made it so that she can find the well. It's what makes her, able to one-shot Straff as she's on the top of the tower and she just dives in and then, with her Koloth sword, berserk style, just one-shots him. And then, oh man, so yeah, the new metal was amazing with the one shot, with saving Breeze, with the super effective headbutt, with yeah, that was her edge. That was a big thing for me, and I was a little sad that Zane. Granted, he didn't want to kill her, but he didn't use that more to his success. There's only one time that we get to see him burn it when uh, Zane has the ATM, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna push. Just kidding, Jermalaman." Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "Oh, well, it turns out that I found your piece of paper." So, yeah, that
Yeah,
Yeah.
Zane seemed kind of a distraction more than anything else for her.
yeah, it wasn't until the end, because like for most of it, I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. But then the way God was talking in his head, and that he needed to go with Vin and to do these other things, and he just set up, Straff to fail with the mistings, and the way he protects Vin, and then it's kind of that. I guess in book one they have Kelsier and Vin battling and working on her skills. So, and then it
Yeah,
also, for me, it was a big push for Vin developmentally, and how she was like, oh, do I love Ellen? Am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? Just to give that
yeah,
counterpoint of, apparently they all want the bad boy, but the fact of the matter is they
Uh,
don't. And, yeah.
she thought she did for a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. So it was more of a
Um,
developmental that way, but
there were some times where maybe it was just to remind us that she still is human. She still is this teenage girl. Yeah, she's Slayer of Gods. Epic Mistborn, etc., etc. But she's still human, right?
yeah.
hmm
Um, yeah, yeah. Um, any big moments that stick out for you, Chaz, early on in the book that you want to dive a
Uh,
little deeper on? Um,
yeah. Not really. Although I will say, just in general, one thing that I see a lot in all of Brandon's books is he's really good at the political intrigue and military strategy and stuff like that. That really came out strong in book two.
mhm.
To as the three armies were converging on
Luthadale?
I forget I forget that, yeah, Luthadel. Thank you. Yeah, as the three armies were converging on Luthadel, and they were trying to work out all their strategies and everything. And I thought he's always just a star player when it comes to the political intrigue and military strategy. And so I thought that was really well, and the way it worked in this book made a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Um, even to the point of what's her name. Now I can't think of it. The uh, the governess, I called her. Ellen's the lady that worked with Ellen to help him
Oh,
look more
Tindril?
the part of it.
Oh,
What's
Or
that?
Tindril, the keeper?
Tindril,
yeah.
Twindle or something. Thank you. Yeah, so I called her the governess because that's what she reminded me of. She reminded me of this strict governess that everybody in a boarding house hates, but yet she
Mm,
has the best intentions and she's looking out for them. But
yeah.
even down to that, the way that she kind of manipulated him to become who he needed to be. Um, that was a big one for me. I guess would be the interactions between Ellen and Tindwell, and him not really wanting to be what he needed to be, but she finally convinced him that this is who you really need to be to lead these people, and to watch him evolve as a result of her. I thought that was huge.
He definitely grew a lot, and for me, like, to really get that full immersion in the book, like, it comes down to believability, and like there's that 1 year time hop between book 1 and 2, but then just like the progression, and thanks to her help, for Ellen to kind of see that growth and development and to realize how naive he was with the way he approached his kingdom initially, trying to implement all these changes that later in the book he realizes like the population wasn't necessarily ready for, even though like it meant well. And he went from like king to regular person to emperor at the end. But yeah, she definitely helped guide him on that progression, and not gonna lie, it pulled at my heartstrings, especially for Sazed when we lost her.
Right.
And then,
So
I
yeah.
guess I did enjoy the build up and, the positioning and the game of chess, but it lost it for me when Vin just ults and they all give up and die and go away. So that just kind of lost it for me. Like, I get it, I do, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Hey, she is the hero, right? The hero of ages.
yeah.
She's supposed to alt and be OP.
But like
Um,
there was a scene in book 1 that right after Kelsier comes back from trying to break into the Lord Ruler's oh spot in the middle of the spires, and he gets back and he's talking to Dox and Ham and I think not Breeze, Clubs, and they hear a sound at the back door and they get that A-Team vibe where Dox grabs a table leg and Ham grabs this, and they're like about to throw down, and then it's like, just kidding, it's Sazerd, and we're gonna heal her instead. Like, I didn't get a group A-Team thing. Yeah, I guess we got Clubs and Breeze holding a door, and we got Sazerd, being the only one to keep his door shut with the Koloss attack and
yeah.
whatnot, but I never got my A-Team moment. It just ended up being all separate, and then Ben's like, all right, I got this.
Right.
The
Yeah.
the little bit I remember of book 3, which it's been a couple years since I've read it, I think it will make up for your 18 moments there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I believe there was a total of like 6 parts in this book, not including the epilogue and all that fun stuff. But it's part 5, chapter 49, when like the big climax really starts and we finally get that war, right? And we talked a little bit about it, but like the Koloss basically start riding themselves up, and we later find out that you guys just told me it, Jastes pretty much loses control of the Koloss because the cart of wooden coins burns. And
He was lying to him about the money all along.
right. So we have the Koloss that end up attacking, setting off to the side, Straff retreating to leave all these people to die. And yeah, just like so much finally happens at the end there. I want to go down. I want to talk about Set or Straff a little bit too, just because that whole storyline I thought was really interesting with the mistress and the fact that like she was actually the one poisoning him. I didn't see that coming
I
initially.
didn't either.
Well, for
Yeah.
me, like,
Yeah, no.
that was kind of a hole because, that's what the whole obligators are built for. And in one, we got to see Ben's dad, essentially get owned. And then we get to see, I expected Marsh to play a bigger role here when Marsh was supposed to be the inquisitor for Ellen's budding government. And he played a little bit of a part, but he kind of went on his side quest and helped out Caesar a lot. So I was a little disappointed there. But yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see that coming with him, and then just the poison / addiction and everything. And maybe it's worth asking, but on a scale of you hate him to you absolutely completely hate him, like how do you feel about Straff? Right? Like I feel like he is the bad guy for book 2, and rightly deserves it. Where for book 1, we're not so sure if he deserves it, or the Lord Emperor deserves it or not once we get into book 2.
Yeah, and just primarily, I think it's just because of the way the way he runs his family. Like, he wants power, he wants control, and he's willing to usurp Ellen, who came into control of Luthadel. And at the same time, though, he obviously favors Ellen because here's this half brother of Ellen's that pretty much hates Ellen because Ellen has always been the favored child in a sense, and so he's got all of this animosity because Straff basically just uses him as a tool. He doesn't use him. He doesn't treat him like a son. He's just a tool because he's Mistborn.
I think Straff treats everybody like a tool, to a certain degree. Uses up his mistresses just to try to get some half-breed allomancers out there.
Yeah.
There was a couple points, I think, like one of his generals where he saw like a flicker in his eyes. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to have to kill them soon." He's just like everything everybody hates about the nobility.
Right.
Yeah. Very
So
manipulative.
yeah. Oh, it felt so good when Vin finally offed him. But yeah, the final battle, so much happens there. And again, like Brandon Sanderson just does an amazing job, like the immersion. As much as I felt bad for Breeze, like, again, just the believability, like how gruesome is war, the fact that he kind of has his own little breakdown and hides and at least owns up to himself that he's a coward. And then like the soldiers later, when Ham and them go and get him, they're like, he crawled in here, but he still kept soothing us, even though we were ready to give up. We still kept fighting as he's, having his mental breakdown. And the side there, lose clubs, lose docks, lose Tyndall. I can respect an author that's willing to kill off these important characters, because so often you read so many books where you're like, oh yeah, this character's in jeopardy, but you know what? He's one of the main characters. We're not going to lose them. And here we lose 3 big members of the crew in this final battle. Yeah. Yeah.
I think to craft a good story, you have to be willing to kill off some of your prized characters if it really makes sense to do it. Yeah, so you're right. I think that does mark a good author when they're willing to do that.
That as a reader, you understand that nobody's really off limits, right? And yeah, it John says main character immunity is norm for most books, and it kind of kills the immersion for me if they're off limits. You know, they get into these dire situations, and I think that really helped play into when Elend gets stabbed, right? Like, oh, well, he's willing to kill off all these other people. Are we really going to lose Elend? And I remember kind of thinking that my first pass through, it's like, oh my goodness, here we've spent all this time and energy investing in Elend. Um, yeah, yeah. What were some of your guys' favorite moments from that final battle there? There were so many for me.
Oh,
Um,
Vin taking on all the Koloss, and
yeah,
the look on their face.
becoming queen
Yeah.
of the Smurfs.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Caesar
Yes.
coming through, and
To manipulate. It's like, oh, hey, I learned something new, and yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed how like Sazed so well spoken and everything, and you know, so articulate, and then here in the crucial moment where he's like, oh, I need to say something inspirational to rally the troops, and he's just like, fight. And
Right.
you know, kind of just added to the seriousness of the moment.
yeah, that, and then when he's going back to the other keep, and he's like in a loincloth because he's used so much strength and all the fighting, he's went all Hulk
Yeah,
mode and lost all his clothes.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. um How about you, Chaz? Any big moments stick out in that final battle?
Not a whole lot. I mean, obviously, Vin going off into the fray, just like wreaking havoc.
Mhm.
I mean, that was a big one for me. That sticks out the most, and the end of Strap Venture and everything. I think probably more stuck out to me in the final scenes once they reached the Wall of Ascension. So
To finally
even though
find it, right?
it was great, uh, it didn't really feel like there was anything really new there in the battle. It was
Okay.
just like kind of like, oh, okay, it's a battle, and it's everything's
Finally
coming to an
happening.
end. Yeah, it's finally happening, and we finally
Yeah.
get to see them defend the capital. And okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
This
it
is
was a good battle, but it wasn't anything mind blowing for me.
That's why I enjoy having different people come on and give different viewpoints for the book, because here we have Pete,
Yeah,
who's
all about that
a
battle.
sucker for action, waiting
Yeah.
for the battle, and then Chaz is helping us appreciate the finer points of the political intrigue and the strategy behind it all. And I
Good battle
remember,
as much as anyone, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I remember from one of Brandon Sanderson's interviews, he talks about how like when writing, some of the advice he was given was every scene try to make it to where it's somebody's favorite for whatever reason that may be. And he just, yeah. Have we gushed enough about how much we like Brandon Sanderson as an author? There's a reason why everybody recommends him. Uh,
This is one of his
uh,
older works, so I think some of
yeah,
his newer stuff is even better.
yeah,
yeah, he's definitely grown a lot as an author. I can definitely see like his skill with the Stormlight Archive versus what he did with Mistborn, at least Mistborn Era 1, because I haven't read Era 2. He's definitely grown leaps and bounds as an author, I think.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, just the sheer weight of the Stormlight books versus the Mistborn books, I think, shows that.
Yes, yes. Huge fan of Stormlight Archive. Can't wait to get into that bit. Um, yeah, so we didn't find the ATM in this
Right.
book.
or
That was a big point.
us, or we found a single thing which made Ellen a Mistborn now, which that was a big thing. We built him up, we almost killed him off, just kidding. Let out the evil, and now Ellen is a Mistborn. So
Do we know it's evil? We just know that it's free.
we hear a maniacal laugh that says, "I am free."
Yeah.
And
I've
we kind
manipulated
of
you all up to
know
this point.
because in the after stuff, the epilogue or whatnot, Caesar is rereading the tapestry or the metal thing, and it
Hmm.
says, um, oh, he cannot reach it because he cannot let it go for what it is housing or whatnot. So what, 1,000+ years ago when this all started,
Right.
Yeah.
it's kind of, but yet again, we get those confusing, what is evil throughout this
Yeah.
whole book series so far.
Well,
Yeah.
and that part kind of threw into question for me too, going back to the Lord Ruler and his motives. I mean, despite all the things he did and creating a caste system in the society with all the people that are starving and trying to fend for themselves and stuff, despite not really taking care of the general populace, it really seems like kind of like what he said at the end of book one. You don't realize what you're doing by taking me out of the picture, basically,
Hmm.
because it's like he was. I don't know if you've seen Lost, but at the end they pull the plug and lets all the evil out into the world, and then they try to put the plug back. It's like the Lord Ruler was the plug, keeping the maniacal spirit or whatever it is at bay, and
Right.
keeping in prison more or less. And that's why it seems like he built his entire keep around the Well of Ascension so that
Hmm.
it would stay hidden and people would be protected
Yeah.
in a sense. So
Yeah.
that kind of lends a lot more nuance to the Lord Ruler's character. Kind of, he's not as black and white as he was in the first book.
Yeah, it's all a
He's
Right.
definitely
matter of perspective.
more gray. Yeah,
Yeah. We also
yeah.
get
I,
a better understanding for the fact, like, there was some question, like, was he a god, was he not a god? And then when Vin gets there and experiences the power, like, she was a god for a short period of time. So, like, we
right,
really come to appreciate, well, yeah, like, he did change the planet, and alter all these things, and he wasn't the bad guy that we thought he was.
right.
But I wouldn't say he's good either, because,
Yeah.
and that's
Oh,
the matter of
definitely.
perspective of our main character and where they come from and what they had to go through. Like, that's not all right,
Mm.
but for the greater good. And then another thing that kind
Yeah.
of stuck out for me that weird is like Caesar collects religions, and then Kelsier makes himself a martyr in one to become the religious thing, and then we get Vin being the heir in the religious thing, and then we get Caesar being the oh
First Holy
yeah, the
Witness.
first holy witness, and as it's a big part of one that you know or smashes or gets rid of all other religions and then take them out, and we essentially create our own from it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some nuggets from actual history as well, too, right? And we get to see that play out in this fantasy realm, of how, like, religions are created and grow and develop. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, yeah. Before we start wrapping up and talking about where we leave off in book two, during one of our recordings where Pete and I were both tired and we slipped up, we started talking about Brandon Sanderson serial. To get more details there, you can go watch our July TBR. But yeah, I pretty much said as much. Brandon Sanderson, he's an instant buy for me. If he came out with a serial, I would buy it. And we're working on our pitch for him. So, Chaz, if you were going to help Brandon Sanderson's marketing with the brand, what would his cereal be, and why? So,
Let's see. Yeah, I was thinking earlier, Stormlight. I forgot if I said Stormlight Crunch or
what was it? I thought it was like Stormfather Flakes or
oh
something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
Storm Crunch or Stormfather. Oh, actually, Stormfather Blast.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that was it.
Oh,
Storm.
that
Yeah.
yeah, that sticks with theme.
Mm.
What would the cereal be? You got the Stormfather Blast as the name. Would it you know marshmallow rain clouds or what or
Ooh,
spren marshmallows?
yeah, I like
Um,
that. Uh,
so yeah, how about you, Pete?
Oh,
What's
hmm. I gotta work on the tagline, the name, but as long as it's not that generic vanilla stuff, because like Lucio O's from Overwatch, I'm a big fan of that game, and they came out with the cereal, and I was like, oh yeah, and then it was just like some generic stuff. So as long as it's not generic,
yeah, you'd be fine with just about any.
yeah,
Um,
do some unique flavor.
yeah. As always, guys, love to hear your thoughts and chat and comments below if you're watching this. I decided on Cosmere Crunch. Um, you know, or maybe Cosmere would just be the overarching brand for multiple cereals, but get some Cosmere Crunch
Oh man, the
and then
crossover
have
episodes we could have with mixing our flavors.
or yeah, have it Cosmere Crunch and then just like switch themes, along the ways, like go through
ooh,
different limited editions.
great idea. Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
could have.
like yeah, you could have some that have the the swords. You could have little sword
Oh,
shaped
yeah,
Uh,
shard blade,
yeah,
shard
sharp
blade
blade.
marshmallows.
Yeah.
Oh, and then go through the different misting symbols or whatever for the marshmallows. Have them be some different flavors there. Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Uh,
Brandon.
I I don't know interest theme cereal because they're all a bunch of dead guys, right?
Uh,
That might be gross. Um, oh yeah. So we'll keep working on that pitch for Brandon. But I definitely buy a Brandon Sanderson Cosmere cereal. Um,
oh yeah, only released on Halloween. I like that, John. That's a good.
yeah, there we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
they could be different shapes in the shape of the runes that they trace in the air.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, the different marks and
Yeah.
whatnot, the different runes. That would be a good one for Elantris. And then the shard blades or the spren for Stormlight.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Hmm.
then the Alimentic symbols he's created for
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that would be fun. That'd be fun. He could also have a lot of cool toys that would come in the little boxes as well. I wouldn't mind a
Yeah.
little shard blade key ring or something like that. Um,
Right.
or like
or oh,
a Vin who shoots coins or
the radiant symbols there. That would also be some good imagery there. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, going into the fourth quarter or the final hour here, help me remember where we're leaving everything off. We finally have the three different kingdoms all under um, Ellen's rule now.
Mm.
He's mature to the point where he's no longer giving away his power and authority. He's now ruling them with an iron fist. Um, we brought up the fact that he's Mistborn now. Um, we've released some power that we don't quite understand. Um, all the keepers are dead aside from Sazed, who is going through some sort of struggle of his own and depression because of Tyndall. What are some other key points there?
And the Luthadel no longer has their Chondra because he was eaten more or less.
Yeah, and his contract's over now.
His contract's over. And we still don't know. We didn't really talk about this during the episode, but I feel like the deepness was definitely a thing through the whole book, but we still don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
Even by the end, we still don't know a whole lot about the deepness and what all that is.
Right.
The mist. They mention it briefly. It's like they say the mist is now the deepness, but it's killing people and it's kind of coming towards the well. It's kind of coming towards the center.
Right. Out during the day, which it wasn't before the Lord Ruler died.
Exactly.
Killing people.
Yeah.
The Inquisitors. We see through Marsh that Marsh is kind of undergoing some changes, right? Like he seemed under control of his own thoughts and body at the end of book 1, and we didn't see him a whole lot in book 2, but in book 2 we see
him attack
Sazed, right? And he talks about how he's been killing people. And we know that the Inquisitors have attacked the Keepers, right? And eliminated all them. So now, drawing a blank on their nation's name, help me out here. Yeah, the Terrace people are now in the Central Dominance as well. So we have Set, Straff's army from the Northern Dominance, Set from the Western Dominance, I think, Ellen from the Central Dominance, and the Koloss all under one banner with the Terrace people.
We now know how to take over Chondra and Koloss, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know if we know if it works against Inquisitors or not yet, because so far we know pull out the spike, but it's just, that was one thing that was kind of uninspired for me. It's literally the same, Control Alt Delete command, whatever, to do it. So I was a little disappointed, but it makes some sense.
Yeah. I'm trying to think plot point wise what else is important to remember wrapping up book 2 and going into book 3. We talked about who died. We lost Docs and Clubs. We still have the rest of the crew. The Central Dominance is in ruins. Oh, we did find the canned goods and the stuff to make Mistborns and understand that now.
Kind of. I mean, I didn't really understand it because it was kind of like it was how the metal that you can see in the future, but she was about to eat it and then she gave it to him, and it was like recognized but not. But yeah, I don't know. That's still more that we need to figure out, because there's a conversation afterwards. It's like, oh, I think we know how we made Alamancers or whatnot, and then yeah, doesn't really go. That we only made one. Come on.
Yeah. If you guys felt like we forgot anything, toss it in the chats and or comments below. So yeah. Final thoughts on the book, and then Chaz, we'd love to hear what you have coming up on your channel so we know what to watch for it. Cool. Final thoughts, Pete. What do you think?
Continue the series. 3 is by far the best one, with all the barrel rolls and twisty stuff. Brandon Sanderson serial, and You know, like we figured out how to control the Khandra, but I want to see their homeland. You know, the terrorist one, they kind of lost their homeland, or it's been taken over by the Inquisitors. So I don't really want to go there and see that, but I kind of do.
We
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of world building in book 1 and 2, but we really don't get to see much outside the central dominance at this point, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
Caesar gets he's trying to start teaching and people dying, and then he goes to the Inquisitor stronghold where they get the rubbing of the metal, and
Hmm.
then yeah, that's really the big outside of Central.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if they find more adium, like if there really is like a massive stash of adium that they're just waiting to find. I'm excited to see that.
Hmm.
And also I'm honestly really I'm interested to see how Caesar develops now that he's the last of his people and he's dealing with the loss of Tyndall and
Hmm.
what that does to him and what kind of character he becomes as a result.
Yeah,
So
because he was all about the religions, and then to find out that the terrorist religion was a lie or was fabricated to get them to release this power, that's
right,
crushing. Think this is your purpose in
yeah,
life, and then it's like, nope.
He he was a bright light and an inspiration to a lot of the crew in the first book, right?
yeah,
Like as they were
yeah,
all mourning, the loss of oh, I almost said Cal, but that's
Kelsier.
Stormlight. Kelsier,
Come on, I
yes.
can't be
sure,
the name
yeah.
guy. This is not how this works.
Uh, you're rubbing off on me, Pete. But yeah, final thoughts for me. I love this series. I love the world building that Brandon Sanderson does. And from what I remember of book 3 and era 2 is it's just layers on layers on layers. If you've gotten this far, it is worth continuing along in the series. Um, and being a D&D slash role play fan, I really want to look into. I know he has a Mistborn game out, and I think it's kind of like an RPG theme. I would just love to play in this space some more.
Wait, what?
Um, yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
And Brandon Sanderson serial. So, Chaz,
That I've heard the tabletop game is fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we need to figure out if we can do a virtual booktube group
Oh yeah,
for that.
cool. Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. If you guys are interested, again, throw us some love in the comments. Um, and you can always find us on Discord and social media. Links below. Chaz, final thoughts, and then tell us what you got going on, what you have coming up.
Yeah, I absolutely love the series. It's not my favorite Brandon Sanderson series, but it's definitely a really good series. And yeah, I'm still partial to Stormlight as my favorite of his. But yeah, it's a great series. I'm looking forward to finishing book 3 and then continuing on at some point into the era 2. So yeah, we shall see. And then I finally get to finish Arcanum Unbounded. I'll get to read the stuff I've been waiting to read.
Yes, yes.
So,
It answers a lot of questions, and look forward to talking to you about it after you get to Arcanium Unbounded.
okay.
Um, but yeah, what else you got going on your channel? What can we watch for?
Yeah, so I've got 3 videos planned coming up. I'm gonna do a video probably it's probably gonna be released this Friday on series that I am not going to read.
Fair enough. Is it a
And
do
uh,
not finish type of reading or just
mostly series that I don't plan to read at all.
okay.
At least that I don't think I would like to read at all. Although there is one series on there that I'll be talking about that I started the first book in the series and didn't finish.
Okay.
Um, And then after that, I've tentatively planned to release a book review of Hyperion by Dan Simmons. So I'm really excited about that. I'm almost finished with that book, and I'm just really loving it. So I'll be putting up a review for that. And then after that, I'm going to be doing a video about books, a book series that I absolutely will read at some point in the future, series I'm excited to read. So that's what I've got planned for the next 3 weeks, and then we'll see where I go from there. But yeah, I release a video every Friday, so hit me up.
Yeah, links below. Huge fan of Hyperion as a classic, so I look forward to seeing your review and your thoughts of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, appreciate. Oh, go ahead.
I'll be doing a book giveaway once I hit 100 subscribers too. So just
hey, there we go. Can't argue with free books. So
right.
yeah, go give them a sub. Appreciate having you on. Always a pleasure to chat with fellow book enthusiasts. You have anything else?
With you guys too.
Yeah, appreciate it. Anything else, Pete?
That's kind of a unique idea for a video to do the ones that you're not excited about. And we've kind of played in our own space, but there's a lot of like super hype books that, I'm just kind of like, really? We did one of those already that, had a lot of good reviews, and I was just like, okay. And
Not
that's
for
why I don't
us.
do assassin tropes much anymore. Anyway.
Hey, I thought this was an assassin trope.
Oh yeah. I guess I compared it to this because Kelsier leaves off one where Ben is supposed to be the assassin of the group.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, there've been a few assassin type books out there that I've read, but yeah, not many. I'm not a huge fan of that trope either.
Yeah. There's so many good books out there. Why force yourself to finish something that's just not your thing, right?
Right. Especially because I'm not getting any younger. So one of these days I'm gonna run out of time to read all the books I want to read. So
got to get them in while we can. Who knows what 2020 has in store for us?
yes, indeed.
Oh man, so many memes.
So many memes.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. So awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us during the live stream. We will be back same time next week.
Oh, I guess that's our cue. And
Yeah, that's
there you
your cue,
go.
Pete.
Same time next week, which we just did 29 for the Well of Ascension. Next, we're going to be going back to the Divine Dungeon series. Kind of want to finish it out because there are more series or side series from the author that we want to explore. So we're going to be doing Divine Dungeon as a whole, but primarily paying tribute to book 4 and 5. After that, we're going to be doing something kind of unique for us, which is Ready Player One. We're going to be doing kind of a deep dive / battle royale of book versus movie. So, book versus movie is kind of unique for us. Then we go back to Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings. There is so much content there. It is a big book. It is a phenomenal series. I definitely, if you're just getting into Brandon, would recommend Mistborn first, and then Way of Kings. Talked about it before. About it's just it's way better. It's kind of hard to come back to Mistborn after reading the Stormlight archives, but be deep diving into that.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun, guys. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, appreciate it, Chaz.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.